Computer. Fantastic. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to get going on this. I'm going to double check my feed right over here. Make sure I've got what I need to have. Because, handy dandy production team of me and all of my stuff. Cool. Got comments right there. I can see. Good clicks. And all of my. Make sure it's muted. Fantastical. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Faith and Fandom Friday feedback, because you know it. I love alliteration. Um, this is going to be the online news segment of Faith and Fandom, just discussing what's going on. Because everything doesn't always have to be me trying to make a Bible study of things. Sometimes I just like to talk about what's going on and share with you where the world is and see how your world is. I do have Facebook Live up so I can see comments or respond with questions. If you are listening to this on the podcast channel, you can always message me later, email for comments. And if you're watching the later version of this up on YouTube, um, it'll be there as well. But good morning. Welcome. It is Friday, December 22nd. Merry Christmas, by the way. And let's go ahead and jump into some news of this past week. This is my news cue card. I'd have to say that one of the biggest news things of the week, obviously, is the outcome of the Jonathan Majors trial. And while it is not a pleasant or necessarily encouraging subject, it is something that happened. It is news. And I'm going to discuss it without being overly negative or condemning, because we don't need that anyway. But Jonathan Majors was found guilty on 2 counts of reckless assault in the 3rd degree and harassment. Back in March, there was an altercation, and it's lasted from March until now for this to be brought to trial. And you could watch some of the trial or watch trial coverage, which I have been doing just because I'm interested in things like that. And I just want to point out the fact that he was found guilty on 2 counts of the 4 counts he was charged in. And when you're dealing with something like this, does it really matter if you're only found on 2 guilty versus 4? And I'd say yes. Doesn't make the 2 that he was found guilty of any less discouraging or saddening or upsetting. But he was found innocent on 2 counts. And I don't know about you, but I feel like on the days when I'm being judged and the days when I'm at my lowest points, I would like to I would like to keep track of the small wins, even if they aren't going to change the outcome. So he was found guilty on those 2 accounts, which does place him up to the possibility of 1 year in jail. Whether or not he'll serve any jail time is yet to be determined. Sentencing is going to take place on February 6th. And with that, we'll see what the sentencing will be. Jonathan was accompanied to court each day, or most days that I saw, by his girlfriend, Megan Good, who, if you aren't familiar, played the adult version of the young lady in Shazam. She also did lots of other things, but that's where I know her from. His current girlfriend accompanied him, and they made note in the trial coverage and everything that each day Jonathan brought his signature cup, which there's a whole story with that. And he brought his Bible with him to court every day. Now, the fact that he was found guilty doesn't change the fact that I'm sure he wishes that things were different in the circumstances. And I'm in no way, shape, or form looking leniently on any kind of situation like this, but you could tell that their stuff, but I don't believe he actually took the stand in these areas. But that happened, which does leave us with how this does play out in the nerdy news. Because it's that deal of when your legacy starts to fall apart around you, how it affects everything else. So, being the fact that a lot of Jonathan's previous roles have been action based or violence based, it's going to bring a negative spin to everything he's done in those capacities. When you're talking about the Creed movies, when you're talking about The Harder They Fall, and obviously in the big world of nerd, the fact what it's going to do with Kang the Conqueror, and that Marvel had latched their whole future plans to Kang the Conqueror as a storyline. And as we saw him play out in Loki season 1 and season 2, which that's just it's its own sad thing, because even if we don't go forward with Kang season 2, or not with Kang and the whatever the Kang title was, the Dynasty of Kang or whatever we have with that, Loki season 2 was kind of a masterpiece, and that's going to bring down a lot of the positive spin on that season because of that. And I am not a perfect person. I do not have all of my crap together, and no one else does. But it's just really that thing of like the story of Achan in the Bible of, dude, one man's actions, regardless of what the intentions was, can bring down something bigger. Like Achan tried to steal something that was going to get destroyed anyway, and it brought down like all of Israel. And I just personally don't want my shortcomings to ever bring down others. And that's something that they're dealing with now. So Marvel is going to have to reroute what they're doing one way or the other. And is going to have to figure out what they're going to do. So the next Avengers movies will not be the Kang Dynasty in title, and Kang might just be gone. I feel like, honestly, there was a line in Loki season 2 that basically said they could have written off Kang from that point forward, that the anomaly or the outlier was dealt with, and they could just ignore Kang and move forward. But for Marvel to be in a place where so many people have been complaining about the direction of the Marvel post Phase 4, with so many people already upset, this just is kind of a a hard fall to take, to see your leading man go this route. It's hard. It's hard. And with that, there's come the discussion and the internet debate of who would replace King the Conqueror were he to be recast. And we hear names like John Boyega and even Giancarlo Esposito I've heard thrown around. And Marvel has shown that they don't care. They'll recast somebody. That's not a problem. But yeah, it's just a hard situation to watch. And it's just a hard situation to watch. From everything from the Johnny Depp trial to the stuff with Ezra Miller. And I'm not really going to talk about it today, even though I was considering it. But even like, when we're dealing with pastors and people that are public figures that, are going through stuff, because it's still in speculative stages and everything, I'm not mentioning it like in detail, but like accusations have come out against TD Jakes this weekend. And, man, it's rough when your actions bring down others. And just be cautious, folks. Make good life choices, and make sure you're surrounding yourself with people that aren't going to put you in hard situations. Because it's rough watching that happen. But I'm not going to camp out there forever. I would, do the pastoral thing of saying this. Uh, if you're going to spend the time criticizing or condemning Jonathan Majors and his actions and everything else, take time to also pray for him. Pray for his ex-girlfriend. Pray for their families. Pray for their future. Because, like, any of us have our crap together. And if our lives were put on trial, they would look just as ugly. So yeah, Jonathan Majors and his story, which is sad because dude literally was on a meteoric rise of success, and it hurts my heart to see him in that capacity. Talking on some other nerdy news, Wonka premiered in theaters last week, and currently, as of this morning, was sitting at 166 million worldwide gross. In terms of its ticket sales, which is decent, probably not as much as they hoped for. Wonka was made with a $125 million budget, so they have surpassed their budget. Now, what we don't always factor into is budgets don't always include advertising, and so even though the movie was made for $125 million, it may have spent a lot more in terms of advertising, in terms of things like that. So 125 million may not fully cover where it's at and what it cost. But they are currently sitting at 166 million in terms of profit. And I'm planning to contribute to those millions today because I'm going to watch Wonka in just a couple hours with the small humans. Because that's been my threat of I'm going to go watch Wonka without you. So I'm going to go watch Wonka a little bit later. But that has been good in terms of biblical movies and such. The Shift, which is the sci-fi retelling of the Book of Job, which features the dude who's the bad guy and everything, whose name you don't remember, and also Sean Astin, Samwise Gamgee, and also the dude who's the voice of Max from a Goofy movie. The Shift is sitting at an $11 million box office sales for its time out. But it also was made on a $6.4 million budget. So in terms of success, on scale, The Shift is doing better than Wonka in terms of production versus profit. So grain of salt. I haven't personally seen it. I know Radio Matt over at LTN got to see an early version of it, and he did a good review of it. So if you want to check that out, that is over there. And you can check that as well. And I just want to also take point to mention that Godzilla Minus One is sitting at $70 million worldwide on a less than $15 million budget. Good job. Now, also, that movie was heartbreaking. I cried at a Godzilla movie. And I just genuinely enjoyed it. I thought Minus One was a great cinematic experience and is definitely going in my top 10 movies of the year. Yeah, not talking about that. Beep. So yeah, let's talk about a little more nerdy content of things that are available and dropping. Today is December 22nd. Some things to mention. Aquaman drops today. Technically last night, because they always do the Thursday night thing, but Aquaman is out. And it is the final film of the DC Extended Universe. The DC Extended Universe that began 10 years ago. I find it funny that Faith and Fandom and the DCEU started in 2013. And that Faith and Fandom has lasted longer, technically speaking, once this year changes, than the DCEU. Heck, that might be I might change that to the subtitle of book 9. Faith and Fandom 9, we lasted longer than the DCEU. Maybe. Maybe. Um, but this does mark the end of the era of DC trying so hard to catch up to Marvel and the success that Marvel was having and stumbling along the way. So for people that are in the Marvel world and are disheartened at what Marvel has looked like at phase 4 and beyond, keep in mind you could be a DC fan like me. What did I just look down? Um, because it has not been an easy road to be a DC fan at any point. And yeah. On that note, I am going to go watch Aquaman this afternoon. And after I do that, I'm coming back tonight to do a full ranking and review of the entire DCU, ranking all 18 entries in the DCEU. So, yeah, that's the thing. Also, in terms of nerd drops, Percy Jackson has dropped on Disney Plus, and I don't have much to add to that because I don't know anything about Percy Jackson. Um, I know it was a series that people were interested in and that people enjoyed, but it fell into that window of times where I wasn't there yet, and just never caught back up. So I've heard good things from Percy Jackson fans. So if you are a Percy Jackson fan, that is available on Disney Plus. And speaking of things also on Disney Plus, Marvel What If Season 2 drops today. So and it is my understanding, and I have to go back and look, that they're dropping something every day until the new year. But or whatever it looks like, Marvel Season 2 of What If starts today. So you can check that out. Also, The Gilded Age season 2 finished its season and had its season finale. Now, why do I care about a Regency era New York drama? Because it's a masterpiece and I love it. So I'm just going to say, if you enjoy things like Downton Abbey, this is from some of the creators of Downton Abbey. It's on HBO Max. There are 2 full seasons out now. Features some phenomenal acting and a great cast. Notably, I'll say that Nathan Lane basically plays Colonel Sanders. Well, I declare, Mrs. Astor, that we must fight that opera war. Like, yeah, dude. Christopher Reynolds commented he didn't know he was making a season 2. Yes, season 2 is being made and it drops today. But Gilded Age season 2, you get Nathan Lane doing some great Southern cordial Colonel Sanders stuff, a very Downton Abbey but New York American vibe. And I'll say this just on the spiritual end of things: the dude who played New Wanda, no, not New Wanda. Let me look up this dude's name so I can say it properly, because I don't want to butcher it. The guy who is the main character in Dead Poet Society, I want to say Neil. Robert Sean Leonard. Robert Sean Leonard, who played the main character in Dead Poet Society, who was also on the show House, plays Reverend Luke Forte on the Gilded Age season 2. And I will yes, and Darvell says they are releasing an episode every day for the holiday season. So starting today, every day through the rest of the year, you can catch a new episode of What If. Sorry. But Robert Sean Leonard plays Reverend Luke Forte on Gilded Age season 2. And because I will beat this drum until the day I die, anytime there is a good representation of a person of faith on mainstream media, I'm a celebrate it. I'm a pop out a confetti cannon and like, yay, I don't have confetti, but here's a Reese's Fast Break. Robert Sean Leonard plays Reverend Luke Forte, and not only is he a good man, a good actor, and a good character, he is a sweet, good representation of not only Christianity but of clergy, and like with like zero negatives. Like he did have his role was smaller, like half the season, but we got a good realistic representation of a minister on an HBO show with zero negative blowback. Chef's kiss. I'm excited. I enjoyed him as a character. I was very happy the minute I saw him on screen. I'm a big fan of Dead Poet Society. Is a movie that changed my life. And so when I saw that he was joining the cast, super pumped. But if you like Downton Abbey, or even if you just like period pieces, this is, about New York life around when the Statue of Liberty is being built, Central Park is just becoming a thing. Like that era, really good. But season 2 has just dropped, and so you can catch all 2 seasons all at once. Darvell, if you go back and watch this video, Darvell just asked my thoughts on Jonathan Majors. That's literally what I started this video with. So once it's done, you can go back and check that out. But overall, my thoughts are sad about Jonathan Majors. Hurts my heart for him, for his future. But literally the whole first 10 minutes of this thing were about Jonathan Majors. So you can go back and watch the beginning of the video when you get a chance, or it'll all be out on our podcast channel right after this as well. But yeah. Other things, Chosen season 4 dropped their trailer. And it made me sad. It's in the terms of storytelling, we're definitely going to see John the Baptist get decapitated. I saw palm branches, which means we're coming to the Holy Week. So in my heart, in my mind, I feel like the season's going to end at the season's going to end at Holy Week, and then the whole final season, which I'm assuming will be season 5 or whatever, is going to be crucifixion and resurrection. It's just my guess. But season 4, just the trailer shows a lot of the division, shows John the Baptist on his way out, and has a narration of Mary referencing Jesus as the man of sorrows, acquainted with grief, and you see Jesus heartbroken in the trailer. So if you are interested in the trailer for Chosen season 4, I definitely recommend watching it. According to the trailer, in February it's going to be in theaters. If you had told me a year ago that I would care about The Chosen being in theaters, I don't know that I would have believed you. But I spent the past year watching all 3 seasons, and I really enjoy the show. It connects my heart really well. It helps me put my faith in a practical mindset. And it helps me ground a lot of the stuff that I believe and understand. So I am looking forward to season 4. I genuinely, and I've said this, if you aren't aware, I did a podcast reviewing the episodes as I went through seasons 1 through 3. The crucifixion of Jesus has always been like, a hard thing to digest, just because it's painful and ugly. And the descriptions are horrible in the Bible, like just how ugly it is. But it's always been the mental version of Jesus in my head. Like getting to see this man portray Jesus for seasons now, it's going to add an extra layer of pain watching a crucifixion with somebody that I felt like I've actually connected with as a good representation of Jesus. Whenever that gets there, it's going to break my heart. But yeah, Chosen season 4 trailer is out now. And yes, saved him. By the way, this is if you're not familiar with the image of this is Matt Murdock in an I'm Not Daredevil shirt that he wore to a party in a comic book once, and this came out as a Christmas Funko Pop. It's pretty cool. But jumping on to last bit of this part is also in nerd drop news today, or yesterday technically, Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon dropped. Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon is Netflix's big budget uh offering to Zack Snyder to basically create his own Star Wars universe. There are already books and games and merch and toys planned for this. It's planned to be a long, ongoing thing. I have not watched that yet. That is also on my today uh, plan. I'll probably watch Rebel Moon and work on my uh, rankings of DC movies as I'm watching it. But Rebel Moon, Zack Snyder's big budget sci-fi Star Wars grasp, is on Netflix today, and so you can check that out. And last little bit of news I have for this Friday morning. Pew. Just on some low-key nerd stuff. I highly recommend. Let me see if this is over here. Yes, it is. I highly recommend this recent DC Christmas special. A lot of the DC holiday specials aren't, in terms of comics, aren't always the best. Like sometimes they're just kind of watered down. And I'll admit this is what, hold on. This is 80 pages for $10. And I'll say that the bulk of it was moderately pleasant to okay. But there is, and I posted a lot of pictures of it in my socials and stuff, but there is a several page story of Superman intervening with a guy who is basically in a suicidal place at Christmas. And I'll say that I'm not saying that DC is beating this horse too much, but DC has a good habit of doing issues and segments of comics where heroes are reaching out to people who are just in a bad place or suicidal. There's stuff with Tim Drake doing it. There's stuff with Superman doing it several times. And just with that, this was a really encouraging piece for me to read. I'm not saying that I felt like this whole book was worth my money, but just that one Superman segment. And who wrote that, by the way? You know what? I never even looked. Let's see who wrote this one. Give them some credits. Uh, This is Streaks in the Sky by Michael Conrad. Was that one? I'll say that Superman Christmas special in there. Encouraging, worth the read. Really enjoyed that. And the comic I've been using to hold my notes. Wonder Woman #4 features a Wonder Woman taking a kid out on a Make-A-Wish situation. A dying child being taken out by Wonder Woman for a day of adventure and encouragement as their dying wish while Wonder Woman is being hunted by the world. It does get this kid. I could also see this being a divisive issue, but this is Tom King at some of his most Tom Kingness, writing some Tom King stuff. It was really strong. And on just nerd convention news, wanted to throw out that Sean Astin has been announced as a headline guest for Tidewater Comic Con in Virginia Beach, Virginia. And one that I'm excited about is that Emperor Palpatine has been announced for GalaxyCon Richmond, and they've got a whole slew of Star Wars guests for that. So that was just fun to see. You know, I know there are celebrity guests all over the place, but those are two in shows that I have been or am connected to. I doubt I'll be at Tidewater, but that's still a good show or a good region. And but I will be at GalaxyCon Richmond, but I'm excited about Emperor Palpatine being there. So that's my Friday news. That's what's going on. I hope to spend the day watching Rebel Moon and Wonka and Aquaman, and then podcasting about DC. But just to also let you know, in terms of not just news stuff, Faith and Fandom Book 9 has been uh formatted a little bit. It is in the processes of being edited, and art is being made, and the goal is to have it done by mid-January, so that I can have it published for some cons in February. And I also just want to take a moment to say thank you to our Patreon supporters for helping cover all these podcasting fees and cons and book production and everything else. Also, before I mention our Patreon supporters, if you aren't familiar, I wrote a comic book about 2 years ago uh, about growing up in church culture. And, I mentioned it, and I've mentioned it a few times here and there, and it is, the writing was the easy part, but the art has been steady going. And Lyle Pollard, who's been doing the art, tells me that he plans to give me the book by Christmas or the end of the year, so that, in terms of art, so we can move forward with it. So that comic book could actually be here pretty soon. But to take a moment to say thank you to our Patreon supporters: Jamie Montgomery, Matthew Coleman, let's see, uh Skip Clark, Skip Clark. Oh, hold on. There we go. There's the right list. Jamie Montgomery, Matthew Coleman, Jonathan Herman, Ron Petit, Tesh Norton, Scott Ward, Alicia Benson, Candace Davis, Jay Sheed, Jillian, Jason Crutchfield, Mike Perna, Todd Turner, John Jacobs, Zach Harris, Caleb Grimm, Jeanette Skaggs, Chris Poirier, Jason Bullock, Christina Ray, Sarah Lewis, Patrick Gale, Rebecca Godlove, and Adam Davis. Thank you all for being so dope and being Patreon supporters, and help making all of the book publication cons and everything else that Faith in the Fandom does possible. I hope you've enjoyed just hearing some nerdy news from me, and look forward to jumping back in with some more podcasts and guests and devotionals and stuff in the new year. God bless y'all. Merry Christmas, and I hope to see you at a con soon.